Hi, this is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and this is a Dell Venue 11 Pro, which is a tablet with a 10.8-inch Full HD 1080p display. This particular model has an Intel Atom Bay Trail processor, 2 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage, but unlike a lot of tablets in this class, it's available with a wide range of options, including up to a Core i5 Haswell CPU, up to 8 gigs of RAM, and up to 256 gigs of storage. Also has a couple features that you don't often find in little tablets like this, including a full-size USB 3.0 port and a micro HDMI port on the other side here. And those are built right into the tablet. You don't need any extra accessories to plug in peripherals like an external display, removable storage, USB mouse or keyboard, etc. There's also a micro SD card slot, stereo speakers on the side, docking connectors for optional keyboards and other docks, volume buttons, another speaker, and a micro USB port and headset jack. There's an 8 megapixel rear camera and a 2 megapixel front facing camera, and another thing that really helps set this apart and earns it a pro name for use in enterprise is the fact that without, this is a little bit tricky to do sometimes, but without any screwdriver or anything, you can go ahead and remove the back cover and pop out the battery. This particular model has a 32 watt-hour battery. I believe select models are available with up to, snap this back in, up to 37 watt-hour battery. 32 watt-hour battery version gets around 8, maybe sometimes even more hours of battery life, and with select docking stations like the mobile keyboard dock, you can actually extend your battery life to up to maybe 13 or 14 hours. In terms of tablet usage, it's pretty good. It's got an Intel Atom 3770 quad-core processor. It's one of the fastest Bay Trail systems that I've tested with an Atom processor, and it doesn't. I don't have any problems running full-screen applications like the weather app here. Let's pull up something else, the Kindle app, and you'll see here that we can do side-by-side applications just fine. Netflix works great. Let's go ahead and grab a game real quick here. So despite the Pro in the name, this is definitely a device that you can use for casual things, tablet-friendly apps. Now the biggest problem, of course, is that the Windows Store doesn't really have quite as many tablet-friendly apps as some other platforms. But the apps that do exist, like Minion Rush that we're playing here, work pretty nicely on that full HD display. Alright, so let's go ahead and close that. Now something else that of course you can do on a Windows tablet that you can't do on an Android tablet, even though there might not be as many tablet-friendly apps as there are for the iPad or Android tablets, is you can run full desktop applications. So here we've got the Firefox web browser, you can also run Chrome and other applications. And what I like to do when I'm running sort of full desktop style or notebook style applications is go ahead and pull out a notebook accessory. So this is the mobile keyboard dock. Sells for about $160. It's not particularly cheap, but it gives you a full-size, well, pretty much a full-size keyboard, nice touchpad here. There's no extra ports, so you don't get any extra functionality in terms of adding more displays or other peripherals, but it does have a built-in battery, and like I said, you can get maybe up to 13 or 14 hours of battery life, depending on usage, when you use the two together. Officially, it gives you about 50% battery boost. Now, there's docking connectors down here, and you charge the battery in here using a micro USB cable. So, because that's sort of tucked in here where the dock is, there's no way to charge both at once. You can't actually charge the battery in the keyboard through the tablet. So now I can't access it, which is a little bit annoying. So unless you have two separate chargers, you can't charge both of these devices at the same time. That said, with 13 hours of battery life or more, you're probably not going to need to charge them all that often. Let's go ahead and dim the screen a little bit here so it looks okay. So when you put these two together, the whole thing weighs maybe a little over 3 pounds. The tablet's about 1.6 pounds, the keyboard's about 1.7 pounds, and together it's like a thin and light notebook with a full HD display. In terms of overall performance, it's, as I mentioned, faster than most Intel Atom-based systems. and faster than other Bay Trail tablets I've tested in terms of transcoding video, audio, creating zip archive files, and so forth. You can find some more detailed benchmark breakdowns at liliputing.com. We can watch videos in full HD and it works just fine. I haven't had problems running, let's go ahead and turn the volume down here. I haven't had problems running multiple apps side by side. It's not necessarily as fast as something with, say, a Haswell CPU, but in terms of benchmarks, it's surprisingly close. It's not that much slower when it comes to doing CPU-intensive tasks like using Handbrake to encode videos. My internet connection is being a little bit on the sluggish side here, so I'm having a hard time getting video to play. Let's go ahead and let that run in the background. I'll show you, scrolling works okay. I guess we don't have pinch to zoom in Firefox here.
Hey there, everybody. Phil here for AndroidCentral.com. Thank you for coming to our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to the link.
An ad for a competing site. I kid, I'm a fan of Android Central. There we go. So we've got full HD video. Actually, this is 720p video, but full screen video. And a sluggish internet connection. Like I said, you can run multiple browser tabs, no problems. Now, one thing that is a little bit of a problem, I find, is the screen resolution is sort of a mixed blessing in desktop mode. So whereas a full HD screen works great for Windows Store apps like Minion Rush that we looked at before, or the weather app, when you're running certain apps like GIMP, open source image editing software, which is loading now, you'll see that let's go ahead and open a picture that we can edit. It looks good there. We can go ahead and zoom in to 200%. So it's fuller screen. We can use menus. We can highlight. We can crop and so forth. And it looks pretty good until you sort of, and it's a little hard to get this across in the video, but look at the size of my thumb and look at the size of these menu items. They're almost too small to tap if I wanted to use this with my thumb or with my fingers. You can use a keyboard and mouse, you can use the touchpad here, but these icons are really pretty tiny because GIMP just isn't really optimized for a device like this that has over 200 pixels per inch on the screen. So likewise, if you're running, say a web browser in full screen mode here, and we're looking at different apps, it looks pretty good, but what we're doing here is we're sort of looking at what we would see on a device with a lower resolution, maybe a 1366 by 768 pixel display. Now, you can go into the Windows settings, go to screen resolution, go to make text and other items larger or smaller, and we can go ahead and make text smaller. So let's see what happens when we do that in real time here. Just click the apply button. And now you can fit more on the screen. In fact, let's even go all the way to the smallest setting, and you can fit even more on the screen. And so what that lets you do is say, open multiple windows side by side. Looks pretty good in terms of how much you can fit on the screen. Again, slow internet connections, not making this ideal. Let's go ahead and do this. But everything's really tiny, so compare my fingers to the size of the text on the screen there. So unless you sort of stick your nose right up against the screen, you might not really take advantage of all the extra pixels that you have here. But if you went back to magnifying the text and everything else, it's sort of like using a lower resolution display. Now everything does look a little bit nicer, because you have sort of pixel doubling here, so text and fonts and everything is easier to read. You can't really easily see pixels, individual pixels, but the high resolution screen really does work a little bit better, I would say, in tablet mode than it does in desktop or notebook style mode here when you're using something with a high resolution display like this. So I'm never going to really complain that there's too many pixels on the screen, but you want to sort of know what you're paying for, because this device is $499 and up, and if you wanted to get it with a keyboard like this, it would actually be closer to $560 at a time when you can buy something like the Asus Transformerbook T100 for $399 or less. That's a device that doesn't have all the perks, has a slightly slower processor, has a lower resolution display, but a significantly lower price tag, and that might actually be a better option if what you're looking for is something that you're going to use a lot as a desktop. In terms of power performance, though, it's hard to find anything else that offers as many options as the Dell Venue 11 Pro. This is Brad Linder with Liliputing and a quick review.